Well, hey, welcome everybody to another episode, exciting episode, by the way, of Tech Tip Tuesday. We've got a great group here tonight. My name's Ken Close. I am a Healy World member, like most of you guys that are going to be on the call, engineer, lover of microcurrent and energy healing, connoisseur of this little baby, by the way. And Healy World member here. I've been here for seems like, well, it's 5 Healy years, but it's 5 lifetimes in the reality of life. So it's amazing. I am joined tonight, by the way, by a couple of amazing guys. I've got Jake Barron, head of operations for Americas. Jake, welcome.
Hello, Ken. Hey, Henry. Good evening, everyone.
Hello, hello, hello. And we've got our onboarding specialist for Healy, Henry Pena. Thank you for being here, sir. Welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the introduction, Ken, and welcome everybody.
Yay! Well, this is going to be a great little episode. Hopefully, hey, whoever's joining in right now, whoever's tuning in right now, if you know somebody out there that might have any question on the planet for Healy, I don't actually know, not even on the
Even off the planet, anywhere outside.
Maybe in another universe, that's okay because we're quantum. So any right? But let me tell you guys what we can do here. We can talk about all kinds of things, Healy apps, Healy concepts, Healy theories, energy theories, quantum entanglement. Oh my gosh, we even get down to the cellular structures sometimes. So fasten your seatbelts, put on your helmet. It might get a little bumpy. But what we can't talk about is we can't talk about healing, preventing diseases, diagnosing diseases, anything like that, right? There are resources we can point you to, great databases within Healy and the structure that it's been created under. But we just don't talk about that kind of thing here because we want to get you guys really informed on the technology and point you to the directions where you can gain those answers. So that's what we can't do and can do. Hopefully that works. And I'll tell you what, some of the subjects that we dive into, I don't know. There are some rabbit holes, ladies and gentlemen, that that we go down. So it's a chat-based forum. So you guys start lighting up the chat. Put your genius questions in the chat for us, and we're going to not only bring them on live, but between the three of us and sometimes the audience, we're going to give you all the resources that you can think of or even need, probably even more than you need, to solve it. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Amazing.
Sounds like a fun party. All right. So, you guys that are on here already, if you know somebody out there that is struggling with Healy, or you're trying to explain something that might be going south, bring them on here. Bring them on here because I'll tell you something. Um, we got three amazing people right here that speak in different ways, and I'm sure that we'll be able to give a dialogue or an explanation that really opens the door for you or whoever you bring in. So get them on here. Come on. Let's see here. Come on, you guys. Any questions? Anything you want to know about? And if you don't,
Well, if we don't, yeah, we got some topics we can certainly cover here. So
yeah. So by the way, guys, Henry's been on here a few times. You guys have seen Henry. He does the onboarding stuff. He's got some really cool little shorts on YouTube, some explanation things, some trainings that make it super simple and super quick, right? So make sure you check things out on the Healy YouTube page.
Yeah,
Henry,
absolutely. And Ken, we actually today we uploaded the one for Earth Day today. I see. So happy Earth Day, everybody.
yeah, yeah. Go to the YouTube channel and check out the most recent shorts videos. We had a lot of fun. The office putting it together. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a super fun day.
so
yeah.
can we put the link in the chat? You guys, by the way, if
Yeah, absolutely.
those of you that are on here, that chat is savable at any time. You just click on those three little dots at the top of the chat box there, three little dots, and there'll be a save chat command. You click on save chat, And at the end of our call, you'll get a prompt if you're on your computer or laptop. It doesn't work on a mobile that we know of. Haven't tried it on a mobile, but it's supposedly, I mean, YouTube is, Zoom is updating all the time. So
Yeah.
anyway, that'll be the ability to save the file at the end of your call, or our call.
Yep.
Okay.
So Henry's getting the link there. But while we're waiting for that there in the chat, of course, if you're on our YouTube channel, the Healy World Learning Hub, as it's called now these days, very cool site here, and scroll down, you'll see the shorts section. A lot of fun educational training videos on various topics, from things from resetting your Healy device, the importance of hydration, exploring the different applications, the MagHealy charging tips, and then the most recent one you'll see here, the Happy Earth Day from Healy World. And Henry and I you'll see us throughout this video, and some of the other members of our team here in Orlando. So check it out. Lots of fun, and Happy Earth Day, everyone.
Happy Earth Day. I love it. There's a happy something day, all the time, right?
Yeah, if you Google what's the official day today or whatever, there's something for everything from, National Cheeseburger Day to National Broccoli Day, whatever.
Yeah, well, there was just a national, what was it, Pet Day or?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
And that's another thing. So because Healy can kind of address all these things. I don't know about cheeseburger, but anyway, it can address almost, when it comes to nutrition, we do have a whole digital nutrition program.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a program for cheeseburgers though, Jake.
Well, maybe not for cheeseburgers, but for digestion, to help you digest that cheeseburger. So,
help assist in that.
Maybe you need some gastrointestinal harmony after you eat that cheeseburger.
Yeah, the Friendly Flora program, right? Yep. No, that's true. The cool thing is Healy does address, anything you can think of on the table, or pardon the pun, but anything that you can come up with, Healy has a program, because everything is energy, right? And the only thing that separates one form of energy from another, a skin cell from a cheeseburger, is the frequency. So when we can make alignments with frequencies that help and assist and heal us, now we're amplifying the signal. And we make misalignments with things such as things that don't serve you, maybe some saturated fats, some sugars, some things that you don't need very well. When we create a disharmony, a frequency that negates it, it downregulates that. This is called in mechanical theories, in many of the quantum physics outlines, it's called the constructive interference or destructive interference. So, like the names suggest, constructive interference means it's amplifying, constructing, assisting whatever it is that we are attuned to. Destructive interference, opposite. So I like the fact that a lot of these, not a lot, all of the Healy programs solidify an amplification of the healthy parts of you, and then works on down regulating the unhealthy parts of you. So I love that.
Nice.
Let's see. So we got, by the way, guys, there's that link Henry put in there for the YouTube page. Quick and easy. Take a look at that and save that link. If you hover your cursor over on your computer, you can right click on that and you can save or copy just that link if you wish, right? Copy or save it, put it like, I don't know, somewhere on your desktop, so that it's just a quick little click away.
Yeah.
That's kind of an instant gratification. The save chat function isn't until the end of our call. Then you save the whole thing. But if you right click on just that link, you'll be able to save it. You can also, by the way, highlight a certain area of the chat and do the same thing, right click and copy and save just that if you want to just take a piece of it. So, okay, Deb's got a question for us. Fire away. Got a question about the analysis scan. If Bioharmony 1 is first on the list at, say, 68%, but when I analyze further on Bioharmony, all 5 programs showed are less than 45%. However, in Meridians 1, which might have been way down the list on the original grouping, I get this. And then when you go and scan on Meridians 1, there's a program on there that might be a 70%. I love this question. We've talked about this before, haven't we, guys?
This is one of my favorite questions, because I had this question too. When you're sort of newer to Healy, or just not fully knowledgeable of how everything works as far as the analysis goes, it's a question that a lot of people have. So yeah, we love, even though we've covered it before, we love to be able to address it again whenever it comes up.
And yeah, expand on it, because sometimes we explain things just a hair different the next time. It's the same result, but just a hair different, and then one might learn or hear it better. So here's how it works, folks, is that when you do an analysis, whatever the database is, it nets you 5 components, the 5 pieces of that database as a result. And those 5 are outlined in order of priority. And then it's assigned a percentage, right? So the number one at the top of the list could be 68%. The next one might be 65 and 62 and down the line. Now, the significance of that percentage is how relevant that one program is in your life. So in other words, let's say you choose a database and all 5 of them are like in the 30%, 30% or 31%, and then 30%, 29, maybe all the way down. Low percentage. Okay, so you chose the database, remember? That's a subjective function that you did. Healy didn't do it, but you put the boundaries on all of the plethora of potentials. You put the boundaries on that one database. And within that database, your needs in that moment are kind of low based on the pieces in that database. So maybe you've chosen, I don't know, Bach flower or something, right? And all of the components in there, nothing was higher than 30%. All right, great. Still showing you a very distinct priority of each one in the order in which you should use them. Okay, so that's the percentages. Now let's go back to the original question where you're using all Healy programs, and it shows, say, Bioharmony 1 as the number 1 program or number 1 subject matter. It's a list, it's a group of programs, but it's number 1 group. And then you have number 2 group, number 3 group, number 4 group, number 5 group, and it assigns a percentage. So again, back to the idea that you've chosen the boundaries of the entire database, and within that whole database, your body's needs, the top one is at 68%. It's not 98%, it's not 38%, it's at 68%. So in other words, if you had chosen a different database, maybe the contents in there would be more necessary in your body. Okay, it's just the way that it assigns meaning, and that's to the entire page. So that's its relevance in terms of all the content in that one group, Bioenergetic 1 or the Harmony 1. That entire group, the relevance is first. It's the number 1 on the list. The next one is number 2, number 3, and number 4. Irrelevant to what those individual programs in that grouping are. Irrelevant. Still, all of the grouping in that first, all the programs in that first group are still the number 1 on the list at 68% necessary in your healing. Okay, so then you go to the next one on the list, and this is how we build a recipe, I call it, right? That you've analyzed all Healy programs. What is there, like 300? I don't know. There's a lot, and there's a good 16 different categories, maybe more by now. And it gives you a full list of the top 5. And again, like I said, it's in very specific order, and then it assigns a relevance to it. The percentage is the relevancy. But when you go and you analyze each one of those pages individually, okay, and it comes up with the relevance of each one of those programs, they can be different. They can be higher than the original, only because within that one group of programs, the first one is just more relevant in the need of you as a body. The second page and the third page, when they have high relevancies within the individual programs, but they're lower on the pecking order, they're still lower. They're still lower, even though they show a higher significance when you analyze the individual page. Okay. So I know that, a lot of times we get really caught up on these percentages. It's just still a relevancy. And if you go to the app and when you click on the percentage itself, it's kind of an expanded menu and kind of tells you what relevancy means, what that percentage means. Yeah. So it's an expanded piece. Guys, you want to add to that whole theory?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think another thing to take into consideration in regards to this is that when we are talking about anything that happens on a subatomic level, right, on the quantum level, everything happens at unimaginable speeds. So you will never really be able to replicate results. So sometimes when you do an analysis, regardless of the database you're using, the particular program group you're using, etc., the results may not always, remember, that is a representation of what's currently happening in that exact moment. So the moment where you do an analysis and then 5 seconds later or 1 minute later, you do another one, that's enough of a gap to create a completely different result. So it's always important to go based on your intuition at the current moment. The moment you start doing multiple analysis, things become more complicated. But I completely understand the tendency and the desire to say, all right, I have 5 different top program groups. I want to know if there are other relevances from the other program groups that were less relevant to see if one of these programs will have a higher relevance. Because yes, as you mentioned, the higher the relevance, technically, the more urgent or the more you need that particular result. So it's understandable that if you, on the highest program group, you didn't get anything that was particularly relevant based on the percentage, that out of curiosity, you go and check the other results, the other program groups, to see if one of those programs there is going to be more relevant. I understand it. However, it is important to keep in mind that when we do this, again, we need to see each individual analysis as separate. We cannot really go with the idea of comparing one versus the other. And to understand that, again, because of the way that everything works on the quantum realm, it's not really fair to do it that way, to start just doing multiple analysis and comparing them one versus the other. So in my recommendation now, I do have to admit, the reason why we show 5 program groups and not only 1 or 2 or 3 is because we want to give you multiple choices and we want you to use your own intuition to say, all right, what of this is the one that resonates the most with me? So what I normally do in those cases is that I do an analysis and I get my top 5 program groups. And instead of checking each individual one, which whether you want it or not, sometimes subconsciously you're doing it for the sake of comparing which one is the one that's going to give you the top result. My recommendation is that instead of doing that, you get your top 5 program groups and then you say, all right, of all these program groups, which one is the one that I genuinely resonates with me right now? Something that I can say, yeah, this is something that I personally need, or that I feel that it resonates with me, whether it's because it's an issue that you already had that you want to address, or simply because it's something that in that moment just feels right for you. And then you go ahead and do an analysis. It doesn't matter if it's a top one or it's the second one or the 5th one, because it's what resonates with you. You're using your own intuition to go by that. So my recommendation is honestly to avoid going one by one when it comes to the different program groups. Maybe experiment with that a little bit, but ultimately it's never really a great idea to be comparing one versus the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you're doing a second analysis or further analysis on a specific program group, the results of that analysis have nothing to do with the original analysis for all Healy program groups. You're looking at just the programs contained in one group. And yeah, there very well could be one in a high percent, meaning out of just these 12 programs, you need this one a lot more than the rest. But if your number one group, Bioenergetic Harmony, was your top percentage, and you do an analysis on that one, and there's many programs all equal relevance, it doesn't mean that you don't need those. You need them equally, basically, at that point. So there's not a clear-cut favorite, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong that the percentages are lower. It's that you could benefit from many different programs at a similar level within that one program group. But yeah, the original result of out of all Healy program groups, the ones that you need maybe the most right now are in this one. So, you know, like as Ken mentioned earlier too, go ahead, you can run those next. You could choose the top one or create a protocol over the next, week or so as well, and run each of those, once per day, or you can vibrate the results and then pick one at a time to run in the Healy app with microcurrent or something like that too. So.
I'll show you, I'll give you a little example of what I like to do, because it, especially when you are working with it for the first time and we're trying to figure out what should I do? How do I do it? There's so many options. We can get lost in the choice making and wind up being paralyzed and not do anything. So I like to do an analysis on all Healy programs. And then, as you've pointed out, that it nets you 5 program group results. So there's a whole group, right? So you got 5. And they're in order from number 1 to number 2. And then for the example, let's just say we have the Bioenergetic Harmony 1, which is what Deb has put on there. The next one was learning. The next one was fitness. And then we have the Meridians 2, and then we have chakras. Okay, so there's our list. And there's a percentage assigned to each. Top one was 68%. The bottom one was 52%, right? And it was split up in between. Great. So we can take the very top program group, aka Bioenergetic Harmony 1, and we can bring that over and we can do a separate analysis on just that, and then figure out which 5 on that page, because how many are on there? There's 12, right? So it narrows it down to the top 5. And then we could be just that day, well, for the next 2 days, just that top 5, just in Bioenergetic Harmony 1. We're just running maybe 3 that day and then 2 the next day. Okay. So we've built a little bit of a priority recipe. And when you do the analysis on Bioenergetic Harmony 1, and the percentages are higher than the original percentage, or lower, it doesn't matter, than the original percentages of the entire program grouping, that's only relevant to that one page. It shows you priority, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and it's assigning new meaning because now you've chosen a different database. So each time you choose a different database, as Henry was saying, if you're doing all Healy programs, that's a database. And then if you narrow it down to just Bioenergetic Harmony 1, that's another database, meaning that there's 12 programs to choose from. So what I like to do is I like to do that process, do it all Healy program group analysis. Now I've got 5 pages. And then I do an analysis on each page one at a time. All right, it's going to net me. And if I stay in sequence, the first page analysis, I've got 5 options. And then I go to the next page of analysis, I have 6 through 10, 5 more options. Move along the line, 11 through 15. Move along the line. At the end of that, I have how many? 5 times 5. Yeah, I have 25 in sequential order. I could create an entire, if you're doing 3 a day, I easily have an entire week's worth of work to work on me, right? That's unique to me and nobody else. Now, as Henry pointed out, remember, when you do an analysis in 1 second and you do another analysis the next second, because Healy works in the quantum field, it is an infinite field of one moment, and everything works at the speed of light. So the next moment is actually a plethora of change within you. And I say this all the time in my epigenetic courses in class. I said, look, you are evolving to the tune of 800,000 cells per second. So that next second that you do that analysis, 800,000 cells are brand new, and they're all a different you. So it's really important that we don't get too broad. We can get we can get really paralyzed in the analysis and just get nothing done because we're so not sure what to do. But just keeping it simple means that if you're going to do all Healy programs, you've got a net result of a whole bunch of content. Boil it down to the order of the content in the first group and work on those. You know, you can do the same with the second group when you're done, and so on and so on. I don't recommend that you're doing an analysis even every week, folks. I know people who are doing it 3 times a day or more. And the problem is, let's just go with this analogy for a second. If you come to me as an athlete and you want me to create a performance nutrition program, which I will do, I got one perfectly for your design, whatever you're trying to do, whatever your goal is. And I give you this, you come to me on Monday, I give you this performance nutrition protocol, and you start out and you're excited and you get going. Tuesday, you come back and say, I want a different nutrition program. I'm going to tell you the same thing. I said, we haven't made much change in one day, right? We haven't made much progress in one day. Your performance is still pretty close to the same. If we've changed it all, it's by a couple of percent, maybe, if that. And so we need to continue on the same nutritional plan for like 30 days to even see what the body's going to do, right? And of course, there could be some quick responder results that we need to modify. But the point is that you've got to give the biology, aka body, time to evolve, because it is you in tangible form in space and time, space and time. And it takes time for that evolution to happen to the tune of how many thousands per second? 800,000 cells per second. That's a lot. But if you're looking at 100 trillion cells here, we're trying to influence, you know, it could take a minute. Hopefully that makes sense. Good question though, Deb. We've actually opened that door a couple of times before.
Yeah, something that I think is fascinating, especially about the whole, you know, quantum theories, that, and this is something that I sometimes struggle to explain to people, because I mean, I do get like, how is it possible I do an analysis and then I do another one immediately and then I'm getting a different result? And so like something I like to explain to people is that when you reach that quantum realm, you're talking about attoseconds, you're talking about joctoseconds, you're talking about a measurement. There's one in particular that I think is called Planck. It's a trillionth of a trillionth, 100 trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second. Things don't work the same in that world. It doesn't follow the same rules that we understand here in regular physics, that we think a minute is a short period of time or a second is a short period of time. Things over there work in just something that I don't even understand how scientists have managed to really dig as deep as they have when it comes to quantum physics. It really is, it's inspiring.
There's a super great analogy too. So where you live on in one hemisphere, and if you look at water and how the vortex spins clockwise, and you go to the other hemisphere, it spins counterclockwise, right? I mean, we're just normally used to one way that it works, and then you go somewhere else, you go, what? This is different, because of the influence of magnetic fields and the influence of the solar system. It's different based on where you are demographically. And that same quantum experience, where you're looking at the very tiny, as you zoom in tinier and tinier and tinier and tinier, if you could, with your eyes, just keep zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, pretty soon the only thing you would see is vibration. I mean, if you could identify even what that means, like you don't see vibrate, you are seeing vibration, but your mind has put it all together as tangible form, color and texture and depth and volume. So it's incredible when we start going down to the quantum field. It changes a lot, just down to the electron. When you are running microcurrent with Healy, okay, so you're running electron flow through your body, and there are billions of electrons per cell. I mean, just one cell, right? Down to the molecular structure, you're looking at so small that it's hard for us to fathom that concept. And everything that you and I, that Jake and Henry and I are talking about, and you guys are hearing, everything you see on your screen, every scent you're smelling in your room, every perception you're accepting right now is a certain bandwidth of awareness. All right, it's about 2,000 bits of information per second. That's your awareness bandwidth. And yet, look, just take a snapshot for a second, and I want you to write down every single aspect of what you saw in that snapshot. There'd be pages and pages of content, because that's your awareness, and it seems like it's a lot. But the truth is that the reticular activating system, which is a neural plexus of a neural pathway of content, subconscious, conscious. It is part of your autonomic nervous system, part of your vagus nerve. All the content going through this lower stem of your brain is 400 billion bits of information per second. Now, you're aware of 2,000 bits. You're aware. We're consciously understanding it. But what's happening in your body, the enormous miracle of this body is it is aware, and your brain and body are aware of 400 billion. Now, I can't stretch my arms out that far to show you an analogy, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes, yeah? And we're speaking with microcurrent, we're speaking to that 400 billion. And so the body can interpret, understand, and allow billions of bits of information per second, way more than your senses can. And so when we're giving it energy, like you're running a program, this is why you might have heard me before. I run multiple Healys and MagHealy at the same time. I'm like biohacking at its finest. I seriously will have the microcurrent running, the coil running, and the MagHealy running. Plus, I'm drinking accelerated water from the Mag. I'm biohacking at its finest. So the reason I'm doing that is because I'm giving the body a fraction of what it can still comprehend, because it can still handle more. So some of you guys that might have been on the call last week, I was in my energy center. The amount of content that we could feed the body in 1 minute, I can simulate an hour's worth of cardio in 10 minutes. It's incredible. And so, and the body just decodes it, by the way. It's not like it's having a struggle. It's just decoding it and utilizing the information to rewrite biology. And so I know some people say, but I'm super sensitive, and I give myself a little bit of something and I'm wore out. Well, guess what? That's because the body is healing. It's healing at its finest. All right, so Deb's asking, can I run 2 programs at the same time with the use of the MagHealy and a Healy? I may use McMakin, joint balance for the knee, and Meridians 1 joints. So didn't I just
yeah, you did a talk on this the same topic here.
Yep, 100%. So like I said, your body can handle 400, or I should say it's understanding and interpreting 400 billion bits of information. That's the body. It's the miracle. It's the body that heals, right? It's the body that heals. We just got to get, when I interview a client for the first time, I have them sign an agreement with themselves. I ask them, what are you willing to surrender to gain? What are you willing to surrender to gain? Because getting healthier is not about gaining something. I guarantee you, it's not. The body already has the intelligence. It's about surrendering something that's brought it out of Healy being healthy. So we have to think about, what am I willing to surrender? And trust me, it's behaviors, beliefs, perceptions, ego, personality. It's things. Because look, we could have two people exactly the same age, same gender, and one look 50 years or 20 years older than the other. And that's like, there's been many experiments where they're taking twins and they're putting one in one environment and one in another environment. Even now, there was some studies on one in space and one on Earth to find out what is going on, what can be adjusted, what can happen based on environment. And Epigenetics said it is the environment that signals the gene, guys. And when we put the microcurrent into the body, think about this for a second. The environment signals the gene. What's the environment? Well, to the cell, the outer environment is the body, the inner body. The outer environment to the cell is the inner environment of the body. And when we're putting microcurrent to the inner environment of the body, we're giving a environment for the cell to uptake the information and epigenetically adjust, right? But then there's another layer to this. The outer environment of the body is the perceptive content building the beliefs or the emotional component that then goes into the body and also feeds that equation. So we can't wander around, being angry and being a jerk and and being, in negativity and expect Healy to take care of it all. We have to participate in that. So,
Yeah.
a great question, Deb, by the way. Can you do it all?
I think there was a great point, as far as picking programs that complement each other too. I mentioned McMakin, joint balance, and then Meridians one joints. Okay, and they make sense as well. But yeah, it's important to kind of pick two that go together as well, not like sort of randomly selecting. So it seems like Deb's on the right path here as far as knowing which type of programs to pick to run together.
Yeah, if we take a little analogy about what Jake was just saying right there, let's say, let's say that I'm running microcurrent and the coil. I have two Healys and I want to run two consecutive things. And let's say I'm doing my workout, right? All right. So what I do in that case, my workouts are 30 minutes resistance training. And, that's pretty much what amplifies my body. So what I do is I will run the muscle harmony program from the fitness page via microcurrent, right? So now what I'm doing is I'm sending electron flow into the body to speak to ATP production, right? To increase ATP production in my cells. Which cells? Muscle. I'm also increasing amino acid transport, protein synthesis. This is just microcurrent influence. Okay, this is studies for decades. We know this. But it's at a very specific frequency speaking to muscle. Simultaneously, I've got another Healy running with the coil that I'm running from the same fitness page running strength. Because now what I'm doing is I'm sending a magnetic signal into the body, into the influential field of the cell's creation, not just muscle, but what kind of muscle? Strong muscle, right? So those two are working together. So now I'm building a very strong, a very well-fed, and a very aligned muscle cell.
Yeah, and for a lot of people that maybe used Healy for a while now, kind of venture into this world of maybe running more than one program at the same time. But if you're just getting started out, there's no need to rush into running multiple programs at the same time or using everything together. We say it all the time on this call: start slow, less is more. Listen to your body as well. There's no need to push anything if there's any sort of discomfort or feeling of uneasiness or anything like that.
Yeah, I need to put a disclaimer out there, folks, that I push I'm a performance I want to make sure you understand that I am my own best experiment. So what I do can tend to sound a little crazy, but just knowing that wherever you want to go, no matter what your opinion of health is, all of it is an increase in performance. The body, when it's performing poorly, is one that's diseased, sick, and unhealthy. Make it perform better, and it supports you better. Okay, Rebecca has got a question for us. Is it better to use a microcurrent direct to the body versus using the coil? I think you've talked about this, Henry, haven't you? We've all talked about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wouldn't say, So, I mean, you need to know that the cables are the default method of application of the Healy. So by default, you will get additional benefits. Like one of the ones that Ken mentioned was the ATP production. It supports ATP production because this is an effect of specifically microcurrent. You will only get microcurrent if you're using the cables. On top of that, there's also amino acid transport, protein synthesis support. So these are benefits that are only for microcurrent, not magnetic fields, which is what the coil will produce. So yes, the coil is definitely helpful if you're seeking convenience. There's no limit on how many programs you run. As Ken mentioned, it really varies from one person to another. Some people may prefer to have different levels of tolerance, but the official recommendation of Healy is, and you will see this if you go on the Healy Advisor app, we recommend up to 3 programs per day if you're going to be using cables. That limit is not really present when you're using the coil because it's a very gentle application. But as I mentioned, the cellular support that you will get with the cables is going to be superior than when you use the coil. And on top of that, let's also remember that those programs from any program that is a local program, meaning it's a program designed for a structural area of the body, right? Like anything that is localized, you will need to use the cables with the adhesive electrodes. So those sticky pads that you will use for any program from the pain and simulation program group, any program that ends with the word acute or local are programs that are designed to be used with the cables, with the adhesive electrodes, not even the wristbands, because the wristbands, once again, you put them here, they're designed for systemic support. So those are basically the differences. The cellular support you will be getting with the cables, plus access to those additional programs that are designed for structural pain or any localized area of the body. The coil is mostly something that one would use for convenience. You will still be getting bioenergetic support from both of them, meaning that energy field that surrounds the body, interpenetrates the body, will be supported, which plays a crucial role in our well-being, physically, psychologically, and spiritually. But once again, that is going to be a more energetic, vibrational support. It's not going to be necessarily as physical or tangible as when you use microcurrent, which is literally traveling through your body.
If we look at the body as a walking, talking antenna, let me give you a little bit of physics in terms of energy transmission. When we take and run electron flow through any conductor, let's just say that this pen is a piece of wire, and I run electron flow from one hand through the wire to the other hand. When I run electron flow, this is called electricity. I don't care if you're running it from a battery in your car or an extension cord plugged into a lamp. When you run electron flow through this conductor, that electron flow has a magnetic emission. Okay, there's an energy field around the wire that's emitted from the wire. That's called a magnetic emission. Okay, and that magnetic emission transmits out of the wire at whatever the frequency of the signal is going from the left hand to the right hand, whatever the frequency is. Now, if you have a lamp plugged into the outlet somewhere in your house, in the United States, our frequency of that power is 60 hertz. And so the magnetic emission coming off that, you can measure it. It's 60 hertz. And the larger the demand, the bigger the light bulb in the lamp, or the bigger the load. Let's say you're powering a whole house from that same extension cord versus just a little tiny light bulb. One's going to have a bigger demand of current flow through that wire. And so the bigger the demand, the wider and the more powerful the magnetic field emits off the wire. Okay, so that's just some physics understanding around what happens when you have electron flow. So that signal, that magnetic signal that's going out into the air, it's just free magnetic energy floating around endlessly, infinitely, forever. But if there's another wire out there, okay, an antenna, for instance, a piece of wire, remember it was this wire that created the field. There's another wire out there that's not connected to anything except for just maybe, I don't know, your radio or something like that. That magnetic wave comes along and touches that wire. It changes that magnetic wave into electron flow. Remember the other reverse engineering way? current flow or electron flow emits magnetic waves. Magnetic waves go out, and when they touch a antenna, it puts it back into electron flow. And then the electron flow has the same frequency on it as the magnetic wave. And that frequency goes down the wire, and let's say it's connected to your radio in your car, aka a radio station transmitting information to your car. The radio itself has a decoder process in there that takes the frequencies that was in that magnetic waves and decodes it into music or the DJ's voice or whatever was on that signal. Okay, it's incredible about the amount of information that can go be on or encoded in that magnetic wave. Okay, so that's what Healy's doing. Healy's taking the coil, plug the coil in, and when you run a program, all the frequencies that are in that program go through the coil. And like I said before, electron flow, Healy is putting an electron flow out through the wires or through the ports of the device, whatever's plugged into that port. You got two wires or you have a coil. If you have a coil in there, that electron flow goes round and round that coil, emitting a magnetic wave. It's electron flow in the coil, in a wire, emitting a magnetic wave, but not just one. Healy in that coil has put two coils in there, 180 degrees off of each other, so that the frequency they transmit goes this way and this way. And so in other words, you got the coil on your chest or on your pocket. You have a magnetic field emitting forward and one backward. Guess who's in the middle? Ooh, I'm in the middle. So you're in the center of this amazing wave-free zone. And you're getting all of the information from those frequencies that were put on that carrier wave. Okay. But your body has to decode that. So that's, again, that's a magnetic wave touching an antenna, aka your body. Your body's a walking, talking antenna because it's water and minerals, right? Water and minerals. It's a walking, talking antenna. If you don't think you're conductive, just go and stick your finger. No, don't do that. I was going to say, touch a light socket. No, don't do that. But you have ever gotten a static shock? You walk across the carpet and you touch a doorknob or something like that, snap, right? Well, that's you being conductive. All that energy stored in your body being grounded into that doorknob or into that metallic surface. That's you being conductive. You're an antenna, conductor. And so when those magnetic waves come out of the Healy coil into your body's a conductor, converting that magnetic wave back into electron flow. And your body then decodes all that information because all the frequencies are in there. So the same thing is happening with the electron flow from the Healy on the wires. It's just direct. It's not converted into magnetic energy and then back into electron flow. It's direct. So as Henry was saying, there is a higher biological influence in amplitude with the electron flow directly connected to your body because there's no conversion necessary. It's a real-time one-to-one thing. It happens instantaneously, and there's no, what we call in electronics, there's no loss of signal. When you're transmitting one energy from one form to another, from say electron flow to magnetic wave, there's a bit of a loss. It's just a natural built-in loss of amplitude. And then when you convert it back from magnetic wave back into electron flow, again, another bit of a loss. So that's why you can run the coil at 100%, right? And your body will get the energy, it will differentiate the energy, it will discern the energy, it will utilize the energy. And it's not like because if you run the electron flow into your wristbands at 100%, sometimes that's but much, right? How many would agree? You know, you're like, I'm feeling this, it's crazy. I'm getting, my fingers are twitching. And anyway, you have to turn it down. Well, that's because there's no loss. It's a direct influence into the body. So just understand that theory. It's very convenient for the coil, very convenient, and gives you huge opportunity to actually use multiple Healys. Again, don't try this at home if you are a sensitive person. Does that make sense? Hopefully that a little theory there, little understanding of electronics in what's called wave theory.
Yep, absolutely. That was great.
Okay. Ethel's got one for us, guys.
So this is great. You know, so one of the benefits with the Analyse 2 app, you know, especially the newer version versus the original Analyse app is that you can run a program, you can vibrate it. It doesn't have to be up on your screen. Before it had to be up, and if the phone went to sleep or you got a phone call, whatever, you would lose the connection, that kind of thing. But I'm assuming Apple's using the new Analyse 2 app, I'm pretty sure. But the question was, sometimes she would run sleep programs overnight, set it for 8 hours, and it would, maybe the program runs for 3 or 4 hours, then it drops the Bluetooth connection and stops. So the question is, why is that, and what can we do to have it run for the full duration that was originally set for? And, I think between the three of us, we can come up with a few different, scenarios of maybe where this could, how this Bluetooth connection could be interrupted in the middle of the night, as well, because, the Healy itself could be functioning properly, right? But something with the smartphone, whether it's a tablet or an actual phone, that kind of thing, there could be some sort of brief interruption with that Bluetooth signal or connection as well. So the two have to be working both at the same time for that connection to be steady and to maintain. But can you point to anything specific that would, even if it's just a second, 1 second where it's interrupted, the connection's lost, and then you have to sort of reconnect there? Like in what situation at 3 in.the morning could it just stop?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, when we're using a smartphone, one of the most important things is that this guy is not within 3 feet of you at night. When you go to sleep, your body goes into repair and healing, and we want to down regulate and remove all of the signaling process. This device, these smart devices, when you have them, when they are on and they have a connection to the Wi-Fi in your area, in your house or your hotel room or wherever you are, and it is on cellular network, it's doing two things. It's checking for signal at a very high rate. And so that means a transmit and receive function, meaning it's sending out a signal. It's fairly powerful. Okay. And when it's in close proximity, what did I just say before? Your body is a walking, talking antenna. And so those frequencies are being received by the body as well. So first of all, keep this away from your body at night. Okay. But you can have the Healy close by, right? And you can run it plugged in at night and running the Blue app. Okay. And you need to have the smart device on and running the app in Bluetooth connection so that you're giving that information to the Healy. If there is a sleep mode, the device goes into sleep mode, all of its peripheral, the only thing that it will not shut down is the checks for signal. It's constantly wanting to stay connected to the Wi-Fi and or some form of communications to the outside world, cellular data network or Wi-Fi. So that continues all the time. But you go into sleep mode, it shuts off and puts in pause mode many of the other functions. Okay, so take a look. If your screen goes dark, like so, it's in sleep mode. All right, so you can turn that off. Then the Bluetooth remains active, and you're not going to lose that connection. Now, when you're talking about 3 or 4 hours in, other obstructions. Again, I don't know what your settings are at night, especially when you have that do not disturb function. Some of those are automatic when you set up your device that goes into essentially a no notification modes. I would try, if your device, if you're using a smartphone, and I would try a tablet because you can turn most all those things off, because most tablets don't even have a phone number. Right, they're just a device that goes on Wi-Fi, and so a lot of those sleep modes or those anti-disturb modes and all that kind of stuff, you just disable all that, right? And that also allows you to keep the phone away from your body, and you're only using the Bluetooth signal, which, remember, the Healy uses what's called BLE, or Bluetooth Low Energy. Has a very short range and very low amplitude of influence. So yeah, it's a 2.4 gigahertz signal, but it's very, very weak. Doesn't go very far. And you don't have to have the Healy when you're running the Blue app. You don't have to have it in the room. You don't have to have the smartphone or the Healy in the room. You're the client. You can do it across the house or across the country. You don't have to have it near you. So, so I would check some of those automatic functions of your smart device, see if that's it. You know,
yeah, they're usually that particular setting, I know, is usually in most phones is usually referred to as a screen timeout. So I would go to settings, and on the search bar, I would type screen timeout and see if that shows up there. Then the only other thing that is important to mention in regards to this is that when we're talking about that vibration option, which is the one that you're using and you mentioned around 8 hours, the Healy Analyse 2 app, I mean, the official way that is designed to be used, regardless of the database you're using, is for short periods of time, multiple times a day. This is because it does require you to be aware of what you're doing, right? You want to have a certain degree of awareness, which is why for best results, you not only want to vibrate, you also want to read whatever it is that you're running. And this is mostly effective whenever you're doing the aura analysis or the coaching analysis that actually have affirmations that you read. And that is information that is going straight to your consciousness, to your awareness. So when you're sleeping and you run a vibration for 8 hours, not even our programs, the ones that are actually going into your body, are designed to be run for that period of time. Like if you look for some of the sleeping programs, some of them last less than an hour. So it's not really meant to be used that way necessarily. You may experience some benefits, but ultimately, remember, this is information. And if you're asleep, the information is just not going to be processed the same way as if you're actually actively consuming that information. That would be my take on it.
You know, there's also, remember we talked about this a little bit ago. In the quantum realm, things don't operate like the 3D realm. So when you send information to the client, aka you, this is why you can do it non-locally. You send information to the client, aka you, anywhere in the universe, no matter what, instantaneously. So this happens at the speed of light, instantaneously. It's called quantum entanglement. And so all of a sudden now, that information, the moment you start the vibration on, that's why you see some of those things that are very short. The default timing, as Henry said, short periods of time, multiple times a day. Because the default, what happens by default, it's like speed of light. It happens so quickly. So what we're doing here, ladies and gentlemen, is we are informing the information field. We're not informing your body. We're actually informing the information field, and the information field then rains down and informs your body. It's consciousness influence. So we're working from a higher level, which is the energetic field. And now that energetic field has an addition to your blueprint, and it gets downregulated into the three-dimensional space, aka body. So it turns waveform into particle. This is the observer effect. This is how Healy's interfacing with tangible matter. And so it doesn't take long. You want to run something overnight, get a MagHealy. Run the sleep program all night with the MagHealy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I know it's 9 o'clock, but that last question, well, actually Henry already answered it, but I was just going to say, the question was, we talked about having Bluetooth on. Yeah, well, we're referring to needing to keep Bluetooth on when you're running vibrating programs with the Analyse 2 app. You can turn it off in the Healy 2 app if you're running a program with a coil or microcurrent, and still continue for that program to finish its set duration. So.
Yeah, the Blue app, guys, ladies and gentlemen, the Blue app constantly interfaces in real time between the app and the Healy hardware, constantly, and it uses the Bluetooth signal to do so because there's no wires attached at that time. But the Pink app, you know, once the program is loaded to the Healy hardware, it'll run all the duration for the entire length of time. You can shut your phone off, you don't need it. Okay. All right, guys. Wow. It flew by, didn't it? We're at
It
the
was
end.
great. We got to dive deep into some of the topics today. It was
Yeah, I can feel it. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Jake, Henry. Thank you, audience. Hopefully this was of use to you. To save the chat if you like. Of course, the recording of this is going to come out and it's going to be hyperlinked for easy access to the content, question by question. And you can share it. So if this was helpful, invite somebody next week to come and join us again. I look forward to that. Thanks, guys.
thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
All right. Bye, everybody.